Good morning, children.
Good
Morning,
morning.
ma'am.
Today we are going to start with human physiology. A few chapters are given which deals with human physiology. First chapter is deleted, digestion and absorption of nutrients. The chapter is deleted. And the next chapter is about breathing and exchange of gases. So we'll be dealing with breathing and respiration in detail. So let's begin with the chapter. We have already learned in the previous chapter about respiration taking place in plants. And here we are going to learn about respiration taking place in human beings. How can you define respiration? Already a definition for respiration you have learned. Who will tell me the definition for respiration? Anybody? Yes. One of you say, what is respiration? I didn't ask any complicated question. You want me to call out someone's name? Okay. Naurin. Naurin, define respiration.
Breakdown of glucose in the presence of oxygen to form, no, in the presence or absence of oxygen to form CO2 and water and release energy.
You have managed somehow to say the process of taking in oxygen, utilizing it for energy release, and giving out carbon dioxide. So that is known as respiration. So you will be learning in detail about the respiratory process taking place in human beings, the different organs involved, the mechanism of respiration, all that we'll be learning in detail. Chapter 17, breathing and exchange of gases. Respiration can be defined as the process of exchange of oxygen from the atmosphere with carbon dioxide and oxidation of food in the cells. It's not necessary that you should give the same definition. You've already learned another definition. Any of these you can tell. And if it is asked what is meant by respiration, any of these you can write. Once again, the process of exchange of oxygen from the atmosphere with carbon dioxide and oxidation of food in the cells, you call it as respiration, or else the process by which oxygen is taken in, utilized to release energy, and carbon dioxide is given out. So any of the definitions you can give. So once again, the process of exchange of oxygen from the atmosphere with carbon dioxide and oxidation of food in the cells is known as respiration. And for respiration to take place, we need specialized respiratory organs. And the respiratory organs, they are different in different animals. So different animals, they are equipped with different respiratory organs. So let's see some of them. It depends on their habitat and levels of organization. So this respiratory organ present in each organism depends upon its habitat, where they are surviving. For example, when an organism is living in water, they will have respiratory organ which is equipped to breathe oxygen which is dissolved in water, and terrestrial animals will have another set of respiratory organs. So one factor that decides the type of respiratory organ is its habitat. And the second one is levels of organization, how complex they are, how well developed they are. You know the different levels of organization: cell, tissue, organ system. So depending upon what is the level of organization found in these organisms, accordingly, the respiratory organs can also differ. First one, body surface. So some of the simple organisms like sponges, you have learned about diversity, the chapter diversity in living world in class 9. You have learned about different phyla. Not only class 9, this year also you have learned different animal phyla, starting from porifera, isn't it? Porifera, Coelenterata, Platyhelminthes, Nematoda. So different organisms that you have learned, and sponges come under porifera, or the members of porifera you call as sponges. Coelentrates, flatworms, flatworms come under the phylum Platyhelminthes. So these simpler organisms, you know that the different phyla, they they are arranged in the order of their complexity. The starting ones, the first phyla will be having a simpler organization when compared to those occupying the highest level or the last phyla. So sponges, coelentrates, flatworms, they all have uh, their body surface, or they breathe or they respire using their body surface. And in them, respiration takes place by means of simple diffusion. Gases get exchanged by means of diffusion process, movement of molecules from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. Since these organisms, they have a very simple organization, diffusion is enough to satisfy their requirement of gases. Second one, gills. And respiration through gills, you call it as brachial respiration. So respiration taking place through gills, you call it as brachial respiration. You can find it in aquatic arthropods, mollusks, and even in fishes. Fishes, you know, these are the typical respiratory organs in fishes. Apart from that, arthropods, which are surviving in water, then mollusks, you know, these are aquatic, mainly aquatic organisms. So they all have gills to breathe, or they carry out brachial respiration. Then lungs. Respiration taking place through lungs, you call it as pulmonary respiration. Pulmonary respiration is mainly carried out by terrestrial organisms, those which are living on land. Amphibians, reptiles, birds, mammals, the different classes of vertebrata, except fishes. So remaining all of them, they respire with the help of gills, and you call it as pulmonary respiration. So if you're asked to distinguish between pulmonary and brachial respiration is the one which takes place with the help of gills, and when it is taking place using lungs, you call it as pulmonary respiration. Then moist skin. Some of the organisms, they can respire using their moist body surface or skin. So such respiration, you call it as cutaneous respiration. So what is cutaneous respiration? Respiration taking place through the moist skin. And examples, earthworm, frogs, etc. Frogs, they have different respiratory organs in the sense that when they are in the larval stage, in the tadpole, they breathe with the help of their gills. And a tadpole resembles a fish than an adult frog. So they will respire with the help of gills in the larval stage. And when they grow to an adult frog, they respire using their lungs as well as through their moist skin. When they are on land, they respire through lungs. You know, frogs are amphibians, so they can survive both on land and water. So when they are inside water, they respire using their moist skin surface. And when they are on land, they respire using lungs. So the different types of respiration are simple diffusion taking place through the body surface, brachial respiration through gills, pulmonary respiration through lungs, and cutaneous respiration through moist skin. And you should not get confused between body surface and skin. So only in organisms a little more developed, they will have skin. But body surface, there the organization is much more simpler. They have not formed any organs or organ system. So they respire with the help of their body surface. As I told you in the beginning, the respiratory organs depend on their habitat as well as their levels of organization. So simpler organism, they have simple method of respiration. As the organism's level of organization becomes complex, they have better or more complex type of respiratory mechanisms. Now, parts of human respiratory system. So, this chapter is mainly about the respiratory system in human beings, how they respire, what are the different parts of their respiratory system, how the exchange of gases is taking place. So let's begin with the respiratory system of human beings. Human beings, their respiratory system starts with a pair of openings. You call it as external nostrils. And these nostrils will lead to a nasal passage. Nasal passage will lead to nasal chamber. So the nasal chamber, you can even call it as nasal cavities. And the nasal cavities are lined with mucus as well as minute hair like hair. And there is a purpose behind having hair and mucus lining inside the nasal chamber. Mucus as well as the hair lining will help to filter out the dust particles present in the inhaled air. So they act as filters. They will help in filtering out the dust particles from the inhaled air. So once again, nostrils will lead into nasal passage, and nasal passage lead to nasal chamber, or else you can say nostrils will lead into the nasal chamber or nasal cavity through the nasal passage. The nasal chamber leads into pharynx. Pharynx is a common passage both for food and air. When you say, or when we discussed about the parts of the digestive system also, we learn about pharynx and even in the respiratory system. So pharynx is a common passage for both food and air. Nasal chamber will lead into pharynx. Nostrils, nasal chamber leading into pharynx. The pharynx leads into trachea. Trachea, the other name for trachea is windpipe. Trachea, we even call it as windpipe. Pharynx leads into trachea through a region known as larynx. Larynx, we even call it as voice box. And why we call it as voice box is inside the larynx, two vocal cords are present, and when air passes through these vocal cords, it will vibrate, producing the sound. So larynx is also known as voice box because it is provided with vocal cords which will vibrate when air passes through the respiratory passage. And through the larynx, pharynx leads into trachea. Pharynx leads to trachea through the larynx. Pharynx, larynx, and then trachea or windpipe. See here, just a minute. Larynx is a cartilaginous box, a box made of cartilage which helps in sound production, and you call it as voice box or sound box. As I told you, the sound box is provided with two vocal cords and it vibrates when air passes through it, resulting in the production of sound. It's a cartilaginous box. And during swallowing, glottis can be covered by a thin cartilaginous flap known as epiglottis to prevent the entry of food into the larynx. Now you should know what is glottis. As I told you, inside the voice box or larynx, there are two vocal cords and there is a passage in between these two vocal cords. You call it as glottis. Glottis is the air passage present inside the larynx, in between the two vocal cords, okay, through where the air passes. And this larynx, when you are having food, this passage inside the larynx will be covered by a flap of cartilage. You can call it as epiglottis. Why it is getting covered by epiglottis? So that the food will not enter into the larynx And if it happens to enter the larynx, you will get choked up. It can even result in the death of the person. So here you can see video, the food is passing, and as the food is being passed, you can see the glottis is getting covered by, just see here, now you can see the gap is getting closed. Did you see? When the food is passing, it is blocking the respiratory passage. To see, once again I'll show you. Just a minute. As I told you, a larynx is a cartilaginous box. Larynx is a cartilaginous box which contain a pair of vocal cords, and when air passes through it, these vocal cords will vibrate, producing sound. That is why it is mentioned it's a cartilaginous box which helps in the production of sound, and you even call it as sound box or voice box. The reason why it is known as sound box is it is because of the vocal cords present inside the larynx that sound is produced. And when food is being swallowed, when the food is being swallowed, you can find that the glottis is the opening, the air passage present between the two vocal cords inside the larynx. So when you swallow the food, there are chances that the food gets into the respiratory tract or to the glottis or the gap air passage inside the larynx. So in order to prevent that, when we are swallowing food, a flap of cartilage will cover this glottis so that food will not enter into the larynx or the respiratory passage. Just see that video, it will be clear. See here, now that flap of skin is coming and closing it. Can you see, Punya? Have you noticed?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So it will just come and close the respiratory passage so that the food will not enter your respiratory tract. In case if it happens to enter, you can get choked up and can result in the death of the person. So that is why it is body's own mechanism to prevent the food from entering into the larynx. Now trachea. Trachea already I mentioned, we call it as windpipe too, and larynx leads into trachea. Pharynx, larynx, then trachea. Trachea is a straight tube. You can see trachea's picture given on the right hand side. It's a straight tube extending up to the mid-thoracic cavity. So till the middle of the thoracic cavity, it comes down. It runs till the mid-thoracic cavity. Thoracic cavity, we can even call it as chest cavity. And it is a cavity which is bordered by vertebral column at the back, then ribs, sternum. Sternum, hope you know what is meant by sternum, the breastbone where your ribs are attached in the front. At the back, ribs will be attached to your backbone, and in front, the ribs are attached to your breastbone or sternum. So sternum, ribs, then your vertebral column together make up the thoracic cavity. So trachea will be extending up to the mid-thoracic cavity. It doesn't run till the end, but it reaches up to the mid-thoracic cavity. And at the level of the fifth thoracic vertebra. So at the level of, you'll be learning in details about the different bones present in your vertebral column and all in the coming chapters. So at the level of fifth thoracic vertebra, it will divide into primary and right and left primary bronchi. This primary bronchi will further divide into secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi. Anyways, I'll show you that in the picture. Okay. So here it runs, this trachea runs up to the mid-thoracic cavity, and at the level of the fifth thoracic vertebra, they'll divide into primary bronchi. Bronchus is singular, bronchi is plural. So it is dividing into primary, then it will divide into secondary. The second branch is secondary. Further it divides. Those are known as tertiary branches. The first branch, primary, which will divide further to form secondary. Secondary branch will further divide and form tertiary. So first it will divide into primary bronchi, right and left primary bronchi, and primary bronchi will further divide and form secondary bronchi. Secondary bronchi will divide further to form tertiary bronchi. Okay, once again I will repeat. Trachea is a straight tube and it runs up to, it extends up to the mid-thoracic cavity and divides into right and left primary bronchi at the level of fifth vertebra, and these primary bronchi will further divide into secondary bronchi. Secondary bronchi will further divide into tertiary bronchi. Each bronchus undergoes repeated divisions and form secondary and tertiary bronchi. And tertiary bronchi will further result in the formation of minute terminal bronchioles. Primary, secondary, tertiary bronchi, which will finally form the terminal at the tip, smaller branches, you call it as bronchioles. Pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi. And bronchi we learned about primary bronchi. Trachea will be dividing into right and left primary bronchi. Primary bronchi further divide and form secondary bronchi. Secondary bronchi will further divide and form tertiary bronchi, which will end up in small terminal bronchioles, minute branches at the tip. You call it as bronchioles. The tracheae, primary, secondary, and tertiary bronchi, and the initial bronchioles at the beginning. They are at the tip, but the first bronchiole can further divide. So the initial bronchiole are supported by incomplete rings of cartilage. I'll repeat once again. Trachea, primary, secondary, and tertiary bronchi. Trachea, bronchi, and the initial part or the initial bronchiole, all these are supported by incomplete rings of cartilage. Some, as you can see in the picture, some ring-like structures are there, and these are meant for supporting the respiratory pathways. And the function of these cartilaginous rings is to protect these tubes from collapsing in the absence of air. So even in the absence of air, these tubes will not collapse because of the presence of these cartilaginous rings. Now the next question is why they are having incomplete rings? Why not complete rings? They have C-shaped rings. Mainly it is found in the tracheal region. So they have C-shaped or incomplete rings. The purpose behind having C-shaped rings is that when you know the food passage, your digestive tract is also closely associated with it, and when food is passing through the esophagus, you know, when the food is passing through those food passage or the food pipe, it will bulge. So as the food is passing, there can be changes in the size of the esophagus. There can be, like you have learned about peristaltic movements, which pushes the food down the esophagus. So when the food is being passed down the esophagus, because of these C-shaped rings of cartilage, the trachea can collapse a bit to facilitate the movement of food through the esophagus. That is why they are provided with incomplete rings of cartilage. Once again, I will repeat. The trachea, the different branches of bronchi and the initial bronchioles are supported by incomplete rings of cartilage. These cartilaginous structures will help these air passages from collapsing even in the absence of air. And the C-shaped rings present in the trachea will enable food to pass through the esophagus. As the food is passing through the esophagus, in order to facilitate the passage of food, the trachea can collapse a bit because of this C-shaped ring. If it was completely covered by these cartilaginous rings, that was not possible. So only because a C-shaped, a gap is there where that cartilaginous ring is not there. So this will facilitate it to collapse a bit when the food is passing down the esophagus. Any doubt? Any doubt
Ma'am, can you repeat that point?
about the C-shaped rings?
Yes, ma'am.
T-shaped rings present in the trachea will help it to collapse a bit when food is passing down the esophagus, or when the food is passing through the esophagus, the trachea can collapse a bit to facilitate the easy movement of food through the esophagus. Okay, Nandana?
Yes, ma'am.
Each terminal bronchiole, as I told you, the branches of bronchi will terminate in or end up in bronchiole. And these bronchioles will give rise to so many thin-walled, bubble-like or sac-like structures. Bronchioles form, or bronchioles end up in small air sacs or balloon-like structures known as alveoli, singular alveolus. So several such structures you can see in the picture given here. So once again, trachea will divide into primary bronchi. Primary bronchi will divide into secondary bronchi, which further divides them from tertiary bronchi, and they will end up in bronchioles, and bronchioles further branch and form air sacs or balloon-like structures known as alveoli. And the significance of these structures is that exchange of gases takes place in alveoli. They are vascularized, irregular, thin, irregular walled, vascularized bag-like structures. The thin walls and the vascularized structure will enable them in the exchange of gases. Why we call as why I said these structures will help in exchange of gases is because vascularized means richly supplied with blood vessels. So to facilitate the diffusion, the membrane should be very thin. Only then it can be, the gases can get easily exchanged, diffuse in and out. And because they are richly supplied with the blood vessels, the carbon dioxide present, or carbon dioxide which was present in different parts of the blood, different parts of your body, will be carried by the blood into the alveoli. So from the blood, carbon dioxide will diffuse out into the alveoli, and oxygen which is reaching the or present in the alveoli will diffuse into the blood. Hope you got it. Once again, I will say alveoli, they are thin-walled, irregularly shaped, and richly supplied with blood vessels. And when the blood blood is a medium for the transportation of gases, nutrients, waste materials, etc. So in your body, as a result of the respiratory process taking place, carbon dioxide is being produced in your cells. When cellular respiration takes place, oxygen will be used up and carbon dioxide will be loaded in the cells. So when the carbon dioxide present in different cells is brought back to the alveoli, blood will carry it from the different parts or different cells to the alveoli. And when it reaches the alveoli, carbon dioxide present in the blood will diffuse into the alveoli. And at the same time, oxygen which is present in the alveoli. How oxygen is reaching alveoli? When you breathe in, the oxygen reaches your alveoli. So the oxygen present in the alveoli will diffuse into the blood, and carbon dioxide from the blood will diffuse into the alveoli. Hope you have understood what I meant. I'll show you the figure. So just imagine this is alveoli, a single alveoli, and this is blood vessel. See, the blood which is reaching alveoli from different body parts will contain the carbon dioxide. So it will be rich in carbon dioxide. Okay, whereas alveoli, because of breathing, as a result of breathing, it will be rich in oxygen. So what happens? Oxygen diffuse into the blood, and carbon dioxide will diffuse into the alveoli. And all the carbon dioxide will be unloaded. It will reach. This becomes carbon dioxide and this becomes oxygen. And oxygen will be again taken to different parts of the body, and the carbon dioxide from the alveoli will be expelled out. Any doubt in what I said? You'll be learning about the exchange of gases soon. Since I mentioned about alveoli, I thought of saying how the exchange is taking place. The branching network of bronchi, bronchioles, alveoli together make up the lungs. Or else you can say lungs are made up of bronchi, bronchioles, alveoli. All these structures together make up the lungs. And human beings have a pair of lungs. A pair of lungs are present, and these lungs are covered by a membrane. You call it as pleura. Pleura is double layered, inner layer and outer layer. This double layered membrane, you call it as pleura. And in between the inner and outer pleura, there is a fluid. You call it as pleural fluid. And the function of pleural fluid is to reduce the friction of the lung surface, like a shock absorber, and reduce the friction on the lung surface. Once again, we have a pair of lungs, and lungs consist of bronchi, bronchioles, alveoli, etc. And each lung is covered by a double layered membrane known as pleura. Pleura is having two layers, as I said, inner and outer membrane. In between these two membranes, there is a fluid present. You call it as pleural fluid. What is the function of this fluid? To reduce the friction on the lung surface. The outer pleura is in contact with the thoracic lining, and inner pleura is in contact with the lung surface. So two layers are there. Lungs are situated in the thoracic cavity, in your chest cavity. So the outer layer will be in contact with the lining of the thoracic cavity or thoracic lining, whereas the inner membrane will be in contact with the lungs. Okay, so two membrane, since they are located in the thoracic cavity, outer membrane will be in contact with the lining of the thoracic cavity, and inner membrane will be in direct contact with the lung surface. And here I have shown the respiratory passage in the form of a flow chart. So quickly we'll see that. External nostrils, it leads to nasal passage. Through the nasal passage, it reaches nasal chamber, leads to nasopharynx, same as pharynx. I told you pharynx is having opening, or it is a common opening for both respiratory as well as the digestive tract. So it is mentioned nasopharynx because it's a part of the respiratory system here. Then that leads into larynx. And larynx, through the glottis, it leads into trachea. Glottis is the passage. So in the larynx, you can see two vocal cords, and this passage, the passage in between, or the air passage between the two vocal cords, you call it as glottis, leads to trachea. Trachea divides at the level of fifth thoracic vertebra into two bronchi, right and left bronchi. They further divide and form secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, and they lead to the formation of bronchioles also. Each one can form bronchioles. Bronchioles will further divide and form alveoli. Okay? Clear? Any doubt?
No, ma'am.
Lungs are situated in an airtight thoracic chamber. So where are the lungs present? Already I told they are present in the thoracic cavity or thoracic chamber. It's an airtight chamber. And the thoracic chamber or cavity is bordered by different parts of your body. Like on the dorsal side by your vertebral column. On the back side, it's your dorsal side. So back side or the dorsal side by vertebral column, ventrally by sternum. Sternum is the breastbone. So this part is sternum. So this part. So where the ribs get attached. Okay, this bone. Breastbone. So dorsally by vertebral column, ventrally by sternum, and on the side, you can see in the picture, side, you can see the ribs. And on the base, below, diaphragm. Diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle. That also takes part in the respiratory process, both in inspiration and expiration. It plays an important role. Exhalation and inhalation, diaphragm also plays an important role. So once again, the thoracic chamber is formed by vertebral column on the dorsal side, ventrally by sternum, laterally by ribs, and on the lower side by diaphragm. Any doubt? Lower side diaphragm, side.
Ma'am,
Oh, yes,
can you tell us sternum?
sternum.
Yes, ma'am.
Sternum means the breastbone. In the, see here, this part is known as breastbone. Here, no, where the ribs come and get attached. At the back, we have vertebral column.